Hello, it's Admiral Sara. Welcome back to the Admiral Sara Chronicles, where I bring sci, nonfiction, and astrology and spiritual work all together for funsies, because I can. Okay, so this episode I am talking about Star Trek Next Gen, Season 7, Episode 11, Parallels. I love this episode, to be honest, because it kind of shows us that anything and everything is possible and can be possible, like just by a change in frequency. Um, Now, granted, this of course operates in a sciency way that, ultimately, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, ultimately it's determined that like the frequency that's given out by Geordi's visor is what's moving Worf between different realities. But what I love about this is that like we can think about the idea that we can create our realities, right? And we can shift reality simply by choosing. So if you think back to, when you were younger, and if you're on a transformation journey, like think back to when you chose to take on transformation work. Like what would have happened if you chose not to do transformation work? Like where would you be? What would you be doing? What would you be doing if you like hadn't, I don't know, if you chose to like stay on the same unhealthy path or continue drinking or whatever it was. Like I'm a sober person, so and I know several people who watch my content are sober as well. But like what would have happened if you'd chosen a different way? And I really believe this to be true, like that every choice we make, like this is how you can do like choose your own adventure type of literature, is that like you can choose if you'd have chosen a different path or chosen not a different path, like where would you have ended up, right? So, um, and they worded a certain way. Yes, I take notes. Let me see what I wrote for this one. They said it a certain way in the episode. Uh, oh, I didn't write it down. Um, but it's like anything is possible and indeed will happen. Like anything can happen and will happen. So like at the end of the episode, you see like all of the enterprises in the near the quantum fissure. Um, and you see like one that had been heavily attacked by Borg from the encounter at Wolf 5, is it 539? I think, from Best of Both Worlds. Like you see the result of that. That's the ship that they're begging them not to send Worf back through the fissure. And so, all of these scenarios can play out. Even in this episode, Worf and Counselor Troy are married. They have two children, but Alexander doesn't exist, right? So, um, I love this because it shows us that all you have to do is make a choice and you can choose, your whole life can go down a whole different path. And in this moment in time, in this time and space where like, we're being presented like huge opportunities to make massive change in our life, like it's such a perfect episode to talk about. Um, there is a part where they talk about the keyhole to change and they're referring to the quantum fissure. What I love about that is it refers right back to Chiron. And so Chiron is an asteroid. It orbits in between Saturn and Uranus. And it's the glyph of it is a K with a little circle. So it looks like a key. And, healing your Chiron wound is the key to, moving to like evolving in this life. And so all you got to do is like know where your Chiron placement is. And that's not only where you're wounded, but also where you're meant to be a healer. So like if you have Chiron in the seventh house, your relationships might seem really fucked up and you might have, toxic relationships, toxic friendships, toxic friend groups, whatever. But if you heal your how you show up in relationship to others, then all of a sudden you attract in like all these cool people that actually do appreciate you, do align with you, all of that. But if you don't heal that Chiron wound in the seventh house, you're going to continue to have toxic friendships and feel like shit, right? If you have Chiron in the ninth house, your wounding may be around religious groups, spiritual beliefs, belief systems, philosophies, and whatnot. But your potential could be that you're meant to be some sort of a religious leader or guru or teacher or professor or philosopher or even a prophet, creating your own prophecy of what's to come. And so, there's so many, I love the beauty of Chiron, because Chiron is not only meant to show us where our deepest wounding is, whether it's in this current life or in past lives, it's also meant to show us where we can go. What's our, one of our destinies, right? I shouldn't say one of our destinies, maybe we only have one, but who knows? Like, if we can change our frequency and go down a different reality or create a different reality for ourselves, change our story, we could completely like change everything, right? We could be having multiple destinies throughout it, because right, there's like the whole south node is past life, north node is your current destiny, Pluto house placement, the opposing house placement is your Pluto evolution, and then there's like the Chiron wound, but really you're meant to feel into that healed part of your Chiron placement. So fascinating shit, but I love this episode for simply showing us that by making one choice, or by just seeing that in one reality you are the champion, and in another reality you came in ninth place, and in another reality you didn't even make it to the competition, right? So in the reality that Worf is from, he came in first, but when he went to another reality he came in ninth, and in another reality he didn't even get to go at all, and he had to send his brother. And so, what can happen if you just set your mind to it, keep up leveling your frequency, keep feeling into what needs to be healed, what needs to be shed from your wounding, and, therefore up level your frequency and change the whole trajectory of your life. That to me is just super powerful. It's, and by the way, yes, this is how I watch TV is I think about like, oh, look, you can change the whole trajectory of your life by simply up leveling, by simply believing that that's a thing, right? So, there you go. So hopefully that makes some sense. Um, and I also thought it was really fascinating at the end, when all of the enterprises were visible near the quantum fissure, that all of the timelines were coming together, right? Which is kind of where we are right now, where we feel like we're kind of swimming in, this like 1 minute we feel like we're living in one reality, and the next minute we're in a whole different reality. Like the timelines are merging together. So all of the ways that you may have been or could become are coming together in one reality, and you feel like you're kind of floating or swimming or maybe even vertigo or something. And the idea is to, feel through like, which timeline do you want to be on? Because you actually get to choose which timeline you want to be on. Do you want to be in the fear and scared of everything timeline, or do you want to be on the timeline where you flourish and you become the thing that you only thought you could dream of, right? So some things to play with this episode. One of my favorite time, like alternate, like multi-universe type episodes. I have several of these that I love. I love the time travel stuff and multi-universe stuff. So I'll definitely do more of these. But anyway, so hope you love this. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And let me know if there's episodes or other TV type things or movie type things that you would love for Admiral Sara to to cover in this series. Thank you for joining me for the Admiral Sara Chronicles, and I'll see you next week.